Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you, thank you. First of all, I thank God for getting me here. I got here last night. It was about 9 p.m. and it was dark. I got lost a little bit, and I finally found my place to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, I saw these mountains surrounding you, and I was like, "Where am I?" So I'm very excited to be here. I've been hearing a lot of things, good things about this summit. Um, I remember one time at church they talked about it. Lytle, Ricky Lytle, um, when he was talking about it, I heard it. I heard about it in the Moody Colosseum, and I was like, What is this place about?" But as soon as I stepped here today, I learned about it. It's an amazing place. So, um, as they told you, my name is Gasore Serge. I'm married. I have a wife and 3 kids. I graduated from SU. I happened to be at SU for a long time. I came in 2005, did my bachelor in psychology, and then I did my first master's in IT. I was actually in COBA department. And then I went on to do a second master's in missions, global services. So I was there for a long time. And I'm going to get to talk about my time at SU. But first of all, let me go back and tell you a little bit of my background. Uh, in my time here, I'm going to try to share 3 things. First of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my country's background. Not that I want to teach you history, because if I don't tell you my background, my country's background, what I'm going to tell you later is going to be confusing. So that's why I'm going to have to touch a little bit about my country's history. And then in that part, you're going to hear about how leaders of our country was taken by evil and they did bad things. And then in the second part, I'm going to tell you about my when God found me again, when I found hope in Jesus again. Because for a while I had I stopped trusting in God. So, and then last, I'll share with you about my ministry in my home village, what I'm trying to do, and then perhaps I can link that with trust, with why we should be trusting God. God is very, very, very powerful. So, first, 30 years ago, that was a typical home where I grew up from. Back then, many of you were not born. That's why it's very important that I tell you my country's background. So that was a typical home, not this time, because this time many homes now have metal panels on the roof. So that's Rwanda. That's a home village I grew up from. And although you can see that they were living in a deep poverty, there was a sense of love. There was a sense of love. That time, people, perhaps many of them, worshipped small gods. But that's what they knew. That's how far their education could go and their mindset. They loved each other. They would gather, and that's a my country, Rwanda. It's a very tiny country, very small, in South Central East. People would gather and dance and share meals and have fun. That was a typical evening in our villages, where everybody loved one another. They would share meals. When I was growing up, I remember I would go to the next neighbor and eat lunch there. And I would move to 10 houses down the road and go there and shower. So we lived together. But my country was living a tough time because they were being taught to hate each other. Germany and Belgians came to Rwanda to colonize Rwanda, and they took existing social classes and they created divisions among them. So people who used to love each other started hating each other. And strategically, they made it to where you can tell a Tutsi, you can tell who's a Tutsi, who's a Hutu, and who's a Twa. They would say that a Tutsi is somebody who's skinny, slim, and tall. A Hutu would be somebody who's short, heavy, set, with big nose. And they say Twa would be people, pygmies, people who lived in the bush and lived off of making pots out of clay. So that's how they divided them. And all of a sudden, everybody could know which tribe they belonged to. And that was not a good thing, because they started fighting against each other for power and money. That led to a very big killing in 1959. These are times my father and my uncles lived. They talk about it quite often. Then later on, they also started to plan another mass killing, and this time it was the Hutu, who had the majority, who decided to kill Tutsi and wipe them out. They started the propaganda to kill Tutsi, and it started with radio and newspapers. They started dehumanization. They started to reduce Tutsi to cockroaches and snakes. And people who have learned history, they tell you that every genocide starts with dehumanization and propaganda. They started buying weapons in preparation to kill Tutsi. The guy you see on the screen was a mastermind of the genocide in my country. Right now he's facing an international criminal trial at the International Criminal Court. They started to train young people like you how they can kill people, how they can kill faster. These pictures, I saw them. I didn't take those pictures, but I remember living through these moments. I remember as a little boy going to fetch water, and I'll pass by the government soldiers training people, training youth, how they're gonna kill. So that was the preparation of the genocide. Closer to that genocide, my area, my very home village, was actually the village they used to experiment if the genocide could happen. So we had a Catholic nun who was there taking care of orphans, and the first thing they did was to kill her. She was a missionary from Italy. The rest is a history. I don't think I can tell you about all that in 45 minutes I have. I hope some of you get to read my book as I talk about it in details. That's my book over there, My Day to Die, Running for My Life. So now, let me tell you what happened to me, how poor decisions of my country's leadership and leaders of my country affected me. In 1994, during the genocide, I was about 8.5 years old. And I lived with my grandmother. You know how my grandmothers are? They spoil kids. They love kids. And they wish you all the best. So I lived with my grandmother, and she loved me so much. When I made mistakes, she would be like, Serge, I wish I would see you as a man. And she taught me to love. I remember when I was sick and she was caring for me. Living with her during those divisions were cooking in a neighborhood. And for me, I couldn't really tell what was happening because I was a child. I was a kid being stubborn. But my grandmother knew that the divisions that have been taught are going to lead to a chaos situation. Eventually, in 1994, the president's plane, the plane that was carrying the president, who was coming from a peace talk in Arusha, Tanzania, was hit, was shut down. And as soon as the president, the Hutu president, was shut down, the killers started killing. I remember in my village, it was on the 7th, when his plane was shut down. And I remember hearing noises and seeing smoke in the hills surrounding our village. I remember seeing people coming down wounded because their neighbors who were Hutu had started to kill them. And as soon as we saw them coming down, our first reaction for me and my grandmother was to go to church, a Catholic church we attended, because we had this misconception that nobody would come at a church and kill us. So we all moved to a church. This church is big as this, maybe if you take this room times 2. That's how big our church was. This is a church I attended. I sat on the first row every day because I always wanted to touch the skin of a Catholic priest who was from Italy. As kids, we were entertained by that. And when he came in every day, he would bring us a tennis balls. So I loved to sit on the first row as a Catholic. And we were wrong because killers attacked us after being there for a few days. Killers came and killed many of us. So for me to be here today is a miracle. It's a miracle. That's why I was telling Monique that every time I'm asked to come and speak, I get excited because it's an opportunity for me to be a testimony and to testify how God crafts people's journeys. I'm very excited to be here, remembering how I was inside the church and the killers came and surrounded the church and they killed 5,000 people. That's people who are inside, outside in the backyard. And then all of a sudden, a young boy, 8.5 years old, survives. I'm about to tell you what happened. They came one day and surrounded the church, and I was inside with my grandmother, sitting on third row of the church. The reason why I'm pointing out to that row is because this is an image that I have in my mind that will not go away. And I was sitting kind of like on that side and laying on my grandmother. And killers came and started killing from behind. As soon as they started coming in, they would throw grenades inside, shoot inside, trying to weaken us so we won't fight back. Because some of our guys were trying to fight back. And all of a sudden, all of us we were weak, and then they came in with machetes and started hacking everybody. However, my grandmother, my shield, my protector, was killed by a grenade. This is a grenade that came from one angle of the church, and my grandmother was thinking that if we would move over here on the altar where other people were singing and praising, hoping that when they die, they will go straight to heaven. So my grandmother was pulling me so we can come here up front. And as soon as we got here, between the first row and the altar, a grenade came from this angle and hit my grandmother. So you can see at that time how my hope was gone. I remember being covered by blood. I will never forget the smell of her blood. I remember being covered by her blood and getting confused. And by God's grace, I found my door close and ran. I ran. Since then, I didn't stop for more than 100 days. Every day, you would run, hoping that you would survive. There were times bullets were flying like birds and rain. There were times you was counting seconds to die. You didn't know which second you would die on, but you knew it was coming. That's why being here surrounded with these beautiful mountains really should bring glory to God, because I wouldn't be standing here if God had not spared my life to do what I'm doing in my home village. I'll talk about what I do in my ministry, but in my ministry, where my ministry is, the campus, it's on top of the hill where all those killers, when they finished to kill, they would go and celebrate and eat cows, our goats and chicken, all night, celebrating that they killed enough people. And then they will also do inventory and plan for the next killing. But this time, the same here is where people are coming for hope, unity and reconciliation. I hope time will allow me to cover some of those. But that's what happened. And then after that, the rest is a history. I can talk about that for 2 days, and I won't be finished. Eventually, after losing many of my uncles, cousins, because a typical family in my country back then was about, average house had about 7, 8 kids. So if you had 2 kids or 3, it was very rare. So I had so many uncles and aunts, but most of them were killed. Those who were not killed inside the church, they were killed on the street trying to run away. Those who were not killed in the street were killed in their homes. Those who were not killed in their homes, they were killed in a bamboo bush. Because they killed many people with guns and machetes, and they used some animals. They would use dogs to sniff where people are hiding, and then they would come out after and kill those people. So it was chaos. However, finally we were rescued by a group of Tutsi who had went to Uganda and Burundi and Congo as refugees for a long time, and they formed a rebel army which fought to come back. So they eventually rescued us, and that's how I survived after 100 days of killing. After that, my country that had 6 million people, 1 million was killed. So imagine if you do the math, you can tell that pretty much every Hutu committed killing. And these are people we are living with right now. The perpetrators of the genocide, we are living with them right now. They are being part of the ministry I am running. They are being served in one way or another by my ministry. So after the genocide, we had so many wounded people, physical wounds, spiritual wounds. Myself, I can testify, I didn't want anything that has to do with a church after that. Because this is a church I grew up in. This church had members who were participating in killing, and these are people we shared meals with. We sat together, we worshiped together, and all of a sudden they killed. You can tell why my faith was gone. So apart from physical wounds, we had spiritual wounds. We had so many people with trauma. We had so many orphans. We had so many people in prison, which in my country is still fighting and trying to recover from. We had different methods of bringing back people together. And at this point, so many people, including me, have chosen to forgive. We have chosen to forgive and accepted to leave because some of us gained their faith back, and we are trying to help other people get back on their feet as well. Finding hope. When I talk about finding hope, I give credit to SCU. I give credit to SCU because when I came to SCU, I was broken. I remember when I was in high school, when I started running, my biggest hope was to use running to better myself. And in 2004, I received a call from one of the SU affiliates who said, would you come and run for SU track and field, and in return, SU will pay your tuition? I was like, yes. I was yes, because I thought that was going to better myself. Speaking French, and then you are all of a sudden called to come to America, a country you have never dreamed about. You don't want to dream about America because everybody back home knows that America is the superpower country, greatest place. So you don't want to really dream about it. Even if they talked about it in the geography class, you tried to ignore it. So all of a sudden, somebody's calling me from a place that I've never dreamed about. That's God. And then I said, okay, I'll go. I came at SU in a program that was at the top in the nation. Track and field, cross country was at the top. I'm learning, putting French into AltaVista software, and it would translate in English, and I'll put in English to translate for me in French so I can pass my class. Imagine studying Old Testament without knowing English. Old Testament with Dr. John Willis. I will never forget that. But I had a very gracious professor, Dr. John Willis. He showed me God. God that I didn't find in people, my neighbors. I found it from a person who I never knew. A person who don't know me, who have never been a neighbor, who have no interest in me at all. But Dr. John Willis, I'll come in the morning, he'll give me candy, and then on top of that, he'll say, let's find a time in the evening, let's go a word by word. Then I passed my class. That's how I found Jesus. My professors, they took their time to love me. They invited me for meals, for lunch, for dinner. And then I was like, I think even if there is evil, there's also good. And I started exploring the purpose of why I was at TSU. I know how to use my time very wisely, but if you don't mind, Dr. Dennis, how much time I have. Even if you tell me it's 2 minutes, I'll use it for God's purpose. 20 minutes. That's a lot. So, while I was at ACU, I decided to go back home. It was in 2008. Like any typical student, I went home, and as I walked in my village, I saw a light blinking in one of these little convenience stores that I knew when I was a kid. And this was a very little convenience store that most of the time had many people hanging around and talking and having fun, and all of a sudden, it's like a ghost town. And then that really hurt me a lot. I was like, I'm having a very good education, representing one of the best schools in track and field, eating 3 meals, showering hot water, and my village is struggling like this. Then I asked myself, what is the purpose of me now? Do I still need to just better myself, or do I need to also see what I can do to be part of my village's recovery? So I came in America. I'll tell you, when I came in America, half of my heart stayed in Rwanda, my country. I came and studied, and I was able to finish my undergraduate. And when I finished my undergraduate, I said, God, help me find a purpose. Now I've received you again. Help me find a purpose of why you rescued me from that church, burning church, to now. And one of God's core was for me to start doing what I could with what I had. So that time I was a student working 20 hours a week, minimum wage, so I had no money. But I knew if I can give 2 daughters, it would cover a health insurance for a child in my country for a whole year. That was the situation. Back then, 2 daughters were health insurance for a whole year. So I could see how I can save up in my shoppings and save some money for buying health insurance. So I started buying health insurance, and some people really called me crazy because they thought, we know he doesn't have money, but why would he buy other people's insurance? But for me, that fulfilled my heart and God is calling, because it made me very, very happy. I was very happy, even if I was still struggling from my coach who woke me up at 4 in the morning to go run, and translating French to English so I can pass my class, sleeping 4 hours. I was still a very happy person because I was doing something fulfilling my conviction. And then later on, after I shared that with my friends from church, my family members, from school, we started doing a lot of things in my community. And every year, I can see my community moving from point A to point B. If I wasn't paying health insurance, I was giving goats. A goat is a precious gift you can give to a person in a community, because a goat back then cost about $25, and I could save up some money and buy 2 goats for a family. And if a typical person takes a good care of that goat within 6 months, that goat gives 2 babies. Those 2 babies, if they go and sell one, they can solve a lot of financial situations at home. So I was able to do that with a little, but also changing lives. And it kept growing. And when it kept growing, I was like, I asked God, is it really this? You want to use me this way to change my community? And with so many signs God showed me, it became clear that God wanted me to be salt and light for my community. God wanted me to bring that happiness back. I use sports. Right now in my country, I have started a running race that is the 2nd largest race in Rwanda. And it's taking place where? In my home village. Nobody would like to hear about my village 10 years ago. But now, everybody knows our home village. After the genocide, they knew my village about the genocide. Now they know my village being a place of hope. Yes, that's why I say it with a smile. I can see it. So, fast forward, in 2013, we started a children's home, and we decided to start a non-profit organization called Rwanda Children. So Rwanda Children is basically targeting children who are basically living the same way I lived as a child? If you were to say, Serge, what is the core of your ministry? The core of my ministry is serving children who grew up like Serge, and offer them opportunity to learn, first, equal opportunity to learn and be cared in a Christian environment. That's the definition of my ministry. So, let me walk you through very fast about what we do. So the ministry has about 5 to 6 components. We have family transformation. Family transformation, that means we look at, our ministry is pretty much a holistic ministry. Although we care about the little boy like Serge, but we are also looking at where Serge was coming from, and that was a family. And then all these children that comes in with so many disadvantages, malnutrition issues, coming from broken homes, being orphans, they come and we equip them with education, basic education. And at the same time, we have a health post that has nurses who takes care of those children and those family members. So at front, we have children, and then family comes after. We do malnutrition. We have a malnutrition program. This program rescues children who are malnourished, and these children are from 0 month to all the way to 4 years old. That's a fragile time when a child needs care. Once they pass 4 years old, we have hope that they're gonna survive. We use a lot of things. Of course, our nurses attend them, but we also raise a lot of chickens, so our children receives a very nutritious meal. It's one of the famous nutritious meal. A very outstanding program. In a picture there, you see education. Our education is very well ran. You can see those children are very healthy. That's not how they look like when they come in. And these children are loved by everybody. The student you see over there is an SU student, so we get SU students in the summer who comes and loves on these children. Some of these children have grown up, and at the very end, you can see grown-up students. These are children, I can remember them when they were little. But now these children have equal opportunity, and they're not looking if they're Hutu, Twa, or Tutsi. They're all together. Faith, our Christian faith, comes first. We share our faith with these children, and what I'm seeing out of them, it's an answer to my prayer I prayed God several years back when I was sitting on SU student chair. We have literacy program for the community, their parents. That's within the family transformation. We have a children street library where children in the community can come and borrow books. We are tackling all angles because God-given mission is to transform this village. That if a village that was known on killing one day will be known for hope. We use sports to change lives, like I said. The race you see over there started as a very small race of children. Now it has become a national race. So we are continuing to do goats. I can talk about God all day long here because I've seen what he has done for my community. More than that, we've used goats to reunite people. You want to know how? Okay. Nick. Your name is Nick? Okay. And Andrew, you are sitting together. When we give Nick a goat, once his goat gives birth to 3 babies, Nick signs a covenant with us that he's going to give offspring to Andrew. That's his neighbor. So we are envisioning both being neighbors. What happens between them? What happens if that's the case? Yes, you start talking, whether you like it or not. Would you go save that goat? Because Andrew is going to be angry until you give him his baby. That's what? Accountability and ownership. So we've used this method to change lives. So Dr. Dennis said that the First Lady gave me an award. That's the reason I was given an award, because we've used one goat at a time to change the community. And this is something, the First Lady don't wake up in the morning and say, Serge needs an award. They do a research for 3 years. They did a research on me for 3 years to the point I was very scared. I was like, who are these people are running around asking about Serge? So we've used goats to change lives. So don't let me talk about God, because I can talk about it for 2 days. We use sewing vocational trainings to change teen mothers' lives by teaching them a skill set they can use in their lives. Some teen mothers, when they get babies, when they are between 15 years and 18 years old, they lose hope. So we show up in their lives and teach them a skill they can use to better their lives. We use microfinance. Some of our partners gives microfinance money to these families, and we help them run small businesses so they can survive. We use also cooperative. We grow a lot of food. At this point, everything I'm feeding 675 children is a food we grow ourselves. We don't buy any food. We grow beans, corn, sweet potatoes, you name it, all vegetables, cabbages, we grow pineapples, so everything. The only thing we buy is salt, rice when I want to spoil those kids a little bit, and oil. That's it, to cook. So these are some of the children. Those are some of the graduates of the sewing program. Some of our sewing program graduates, when they graduate, we give them pedal machines so they can start a business right away. A pedal machine costs about $150. So we've found a donor who gives them a machine every time they graduate. So they graduate and start a business right away. We've graduated so many people, probably about 300 something. So those are different crops we are growing. I wanted to show you how this year we had a blessing to have a very good season. We have cows, chickens, all that. We have health programs. Some of you might recognize some of those people in the pictures. That's Rebecca Morin. We use sports to change lives in children and the community as well. You can see our soccer team is gearing in the SU jerseys. Did you see that? Yes. So I go with SU everywhere I go. Yeah, because what he has done for me. So these are ways you can be involved. You can be involved. First, continue to pray for us. Prayers moves mountains. You can sponsor a child. It costs $50 to sponsor a child. You can give a goat, can give chicken. When you go to our website, you learn a lot of things you can do to join us. You can come and serve alongside us. Because we are a holistic ministry, you can always find a place and something to help with our community. These are things we've been able to accomplish last year, and with your prayers and support, we are very sure we will do more. So that's some of the pictures I wanted to throw out there just to show you how our kids are happy. And that pictures when I was celebrating Christmas with them last year, this past Christmas. These pictures is showing you some of our children. That's our campus. That's the heat I was telling you that the kiddos used to use for celebrating and eating our cows and chickens they robbed. But now it's a center for hope. That's the award I received from the President of Rwanda and the First Lady, and that's Alumni of the Year I received from SU. So all these things really helped me see that God really called me for this. And I'm encouraged by these things. Not that I'm looking for it, but I'm very encouraged that at least God is helping me be salt and light to the community. So last, as good leaders for tomorrow, I ask that you join, we join hands to change lives in the name of Jesus. That's a challenge for you as leaders of tomorrow. That's my team, and please join, I join my kids to say thank you, which means in Kinyarwanda, murakoze. Thank you for having me.